In this video, I want to explore a little bit different way of addressing the free will problem. It's really the second most popular question I get. The first is something about how the left and right sides of the brain differ. And then it's usually, do I believe in free will or determinism? And it's a really important question, but it gets characterized like this cartoon version of a simplistic category, like either we have free will or we don't. And in this video, I want to take that apart a little bit. And this is my 200th video, so I wanted to do something special. And maybe this is, but then I remember that numbers are just a outcome of a neural network in the left brain. And so I thought, well, what's 200 of anything? And it's something I may get into. I've seen this pop up, are numbers discovered or invented? And that may be on the list, maybe 201, we'll see, which would be kind of funny. Anyway, the free will debate. When I was an undergrad, I read William James quite a bit. He's one of my favorites. And one of the quotes, so many of the quotes stood out, but one in particular on free will. And he said, my first act of free will shall be to believe in free will. And I think that sets it up in a really interesting way. So in a previous video, I was talking about the paradox of God, and if God's all powerful, what doesn't God have? And of course, limitation or weakness or surprise. I mean, if you're all knowing and all powerful, by definition, you actually have some inherent limitations because one of your limitations is that you are not limited. And so the free will debate has a very similar mapping onto that paradox. And that is, if you're just endowed with free will, well, you didn't have any choice in it. And so the free will debate has to have this worked into it. Like, you must choose free will to have it. Otherwise, if I just force free will on you, then it sets itself off as a conflict and a paradox. And I think that's what James is getting at. Now, in my framework, what we're getting at here is that the mind program is very inflexible. The mind program is susceptible to conformity and obedience, and that's what I talked about in the last couple videos. And the mind program is not who you are. It's programmed there for survival of this meat suit. And so much of this exploration of what people call spirituality is the recognition that we are more than what we think. Because that's what the mind program does. It's involved in thinking and language, and these processes lead to the construction of the self. They lead to all the problems that we have in our life. And when we take the mind program and we relate it to the free will issue, it presents itself in a very interesting way. So I'm going to set this up just as a possibility, something to contemplate and reflect on, and of course, be interested in your comments and see where this goes. It could go somewhere interesting. What if the situation is that the mind program is like any computer program? It's an algorithm. Algorithms have no freedom. They are like a recipe, if-then statements, and there's no flexibility. They are in an inflexible set of rules. And in our choosing free will, what we're really doing is recognizing that we are more than the mind program. In other words, you are totally free in your existence as a human being to not have free will. And you can simply identify with the mind program, live out your days as a reflexive, mechanistic, machine-like existence. And that's what people choose to do. They're choosing not to have free will. In the recognition that you do buy into free will, in other words, you're choosing free will, is the exact same thing as recognizing that you are more than the mind program. So once you identify with consciousness beyond the mechanistic programming of the mind, that is synonymous with actual free will. So just like James said, my first act of free will shall be to believe in free will. And so the moment you recognize that you are more than mind, that's the moment you connect with that infinite freedom of consciousness itself.